Welcome back everybody to our Intermediate and Advanced Civil 3D training series. In the previous video we started taking a look at our vehicle tracking with regards to semi-trucks and vehicles being able to make corners and if they can meet the vertical clearance and driving vehicles through intersections. We're going to take a look at another part of vehicle tracking today, specifically the parking command, where we can automatically create parking lots, lay them out however we wish, so it's no longer offsetting lines for designating stall spacing and drawing curbs by hand. This is built into vehicle tracking and we can do a large number of things. So it's the middle part of the drawing, or the ribbon tab here under parking, and we can start off right away by drawing a new row. We can draw parallel rows. We're gonna start off by drawing a new row here. Now I have a bit of a subdivision here that I've overbuilt some parks here, so I'm gonna throw a parking lot at the north end of this so people can access all the paths and the trails and walk around the pond here and just enjoy it. And there's a place for them to park easily. Now I'm gonna turn my air photo off so it's a little bit easier to see and things work faster here. So I'm gonna go under vehicle tracking, and I'm going to take a look at creating a new row. Now, there are some countries built into this. We see there's just a few. There's not many though. Your standard might 100% be different from what I'm about to show you, and guaranteed mine will be as well, because I do live in Canada and we have slightly different guidelines for parking lots and accessibility and having wheelchair accessible spaces and whatnot. So what we're looking at here is I'm just going to use the US parking standards, and I don't know what either of these mean. There's two different standards. I would go a step further and make a Canadian standard or a Calgary standard for where I live if I was utilizing this piece of software more. So I'm just going to select one of these and we'll hit proceed. It's going to make a new parking standard name. I have a couple in this drawing because I've been playing around with it a little bit. We get the scale window and drawing settings window that we got that's similar to the vehicle tracking side of things. We can specify surfaces if we have a final surface, if we have an existing surface, and project it onto the surface if we wish. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to bring up a parking row properties dialog box. Now this is based on, like I said, the US standards. We can have a different bay alignment, we can have offset, we can have the parking stalls directly across from each other if we wanted to do kind of a zigzag or a drive-in, drive-out type thing. Which one you really pick depends on the kind of parking lot you're designing. I'm just going to select this one because I'm going to make some nice offset rows in here so people can come in and park. How do you want to finish the end of the bay? If you want to zigzag it or if you want straight lines. Do we want two-way traffic? Do we want one-way traffic? Large cars, small cars. In regards to the US, the parking spots are slightly bigger. Here in Calgary, I believe we only have one spot unless it's a wheelchair handicap accessible site parking spot. We have different angles. So the bay angle, we can pull in at a 45-degree angle. We can have a 60, 75, 90-degree angle. Pretty typical for a shopping mall would be a 90-degree angle. We can draw standard or accessible for the entire parking bay. We'll start with standard and we will tweak it from there when we go and draw a few in. Service type, again, this is a US based thing. We only have one here in Canada. If it's a one-way or a two-way road. Flow direction, vehicle class, again, it's the same things from up above. We can put a footpath in between the parking rows, so if we want people walking down the footpath instead of down the road, we can add a footpath in the middle. Start islands. If we have a bend in our parking lot, we can put bend islands, we can put an end island. Has footpaths. We can add just that in manually and it will draw it for us. We can specify the width. I'm just going to do on 1.5 meters wide. Start number, this I believe is for the parking spaces. So if you go to number them, we can start with 1 and go to 30, or 0 and go to 90, whatever number you need to start with. and we'll hit close. Now, typically I would have the center of this parking bay marked out on my drawing, so I don't basically need to guess where I'm drawing this, because we don't know how wide this is. We don't know how wide the parking stalls plus the islands and everything are, but you would have that all figured out, and it would be a simple click and draw the parking bay off to the right here. Now I do have an entrance road coming in here, so I'm going to stop my parking bay. Now, as we see here, it has drawn in some parking spots, it's drawn in some islands. I've really roughly put it in. I'm going to measure the distance now just to show, if I can, what the distance is here, and it looks like it's about 14 meters. So I'm going to just align that parking bay there with a 14 meter offset polyline. And again, your parking standard might be different for your municipality. The great thing about this is it is very grip editable, so I can adjust vertexes, I can move rows. If I grab it and drag it, it will adjust based on where my mouse is. So I can place that there. I can come in and I can make sure that my parking bay does not extend out into my road right away and where vehicles would be driving. Now, I did tell it to put islands on both ends. In theory, would I have an island at the start here? Probably not. But for people to come in, pull in, back out, and turn around, it might be a good idea to do that. I'm going to go and draw just again a quick parking bay on this side. Make sure all my lines are extended to all the corners, and we'll make a new row. The same parking standard. We can modify the options if we want. We're going to include another footpath, 1.5 meters wide. And I'm going to drag it all the way to the end here. Now, it is different distances on both sides, and that's perfectly okay. So I've basically created 2 sets of parking bays. We haven't done any numbering. We haven't done any switching of standards yet. We're going to do a new parallel row. Again, the same dialog box pops up. We could modify these for what we need. We can do it afterwards. We're going to change things slightly afterwards. I want it parallel to this, and we can adjust where we place it now, and it's going to place it parallel. Now, right now, these are set for 2-way roads, so this is about 7 to 9 meters wide with an additional 5-ish meters for the parking spot itself. So if I click as close as possible to this, it's going to make just the 2-lane road, the normal 2 lanes, and then this little glyph pops up. And this, you might have seen it with this as well. We can place parking on the bottom, we can place parking on the top, or we can place parking on both sides. I'm going to place it on both sides and click, and essentially it places it in for me now. I'm going to do the exact same over here. Make a new parallel row. Add a footpath. Oh, it's going that side again. Okay, let's hit escape and try that again. Probably because I had that selected. Yeah, so we'll click on there, and I'll place another one here, both sides. So essentially, very quickly, I have made a parking lot based on large cars for the US. The standards may or may not match where you are, but you will have to create a parking standard for your municipality, for your location. Now, if we wanted to go and tweak some of these, there is a edit parking bay button. So I can select the edit parking bay. I want to modify this row, and it asks us which ones we want to update. I can modify any of these parking stalls that I wish. So I want to, because the park is over on this side, I want to turn a few of these into accessible, wheelchair accessible parking spots. So basically I'm going to click that bay, and it's going to come up with parking bay properties. I'm going to change it to accessible. And if I hit OK right now, that did not work. There we go. Accessible and OK. I'm not sure why it didn't work, but it makes it a little bit wider, has the strips on both sides so people can get out of their vehicles. Now, there is another little bit of a tool here. If I go into accessible and I click the dot, 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 we can include other related items. We can make a custom bay width if we wanted it to be 5 meters wide or 10 meters wide. We could go ahead and do that. We can have different bay markings. We can modify the safety zones. We can put a different bay symbol in there if we wished. We can number it. We can include a wheel stop at the ends, one of those parking curbs. We can put safety posts, privacy posts, quite a bit of things in here we could put in if we wish to. If I hit OK, and I hit OK, it will update both of those. It's numbered both of them. It hasn't numbered the rest because they are your typical standard default. I could go into the standard and we'll do the number bay. We'll put a wheel stop and we'll hit OK. And as soon as we hit OK again, it's numbered them on this parking bay. So we have 1 to 25, 26 to 49. So relatively simple to modify things and changing to different kind of standard. Sometimes it just doesn't want to work, but it's easy enough. Once we have one set up, we could copy it to any other parking stalls within our parking bay. Now, because we've drawn them all separate, they are not connected. What we do to this one does not affect this, or this. We'll just finish taking a look at the grips here. Now again, this wasn't a super in-depth tutorial on the parking bays. There is a whole lot of things we can do in regards to making them suit our needs and match exactly what we want. Get into vehicle tracking and the parking related options here and just check it out and play around with it. So if I select one of these parking bays, we have a whole number of grips. If I click plus, I can add a vertex and extend my parking bay. So just because I've clicked and finished my command doesn't necessarily mean that it's what I'm stuck with. I can extend it. So this will extend it on the same angle, same direction that you already have set up. There are grips for adjusting the vertexes. We already played around with that one and moved it around. We can move the entire row. We can adjust the bay angle. So if I wanted these to be more of a 45-degree angle, which would make pulling in and pulling out of this extremely difficult, because when you back your car up, you would have to keep reversing. We can adjust the island angle on both sides. So if I wanted to place the island there, I could. I can adjust the island angle on this side only. So a lot of very good options. And I'm trying to, there we go, dock above status bar, so my screen stops flashing. A lot of options we can play around with. We can insert a vertex in the middle. Say we made a mistake or need to change the angle of it. The arrow will put a curve in, so we can place curved parking lots. And the grips on this side really do the same. So again, just get into the software, play around with it. This was a quick throw some very generic parking stalls in there and modify and tweak it from there.